Join me today as we take a trip into the Twilight Zone to review a vehicle that never really existed. The Marder II infantry fighting vehicle was designed in the 1990s to replace the 1970s-era Marder. However, only a single prototype was built before the program was cancelled following the end of the Cold War. But Battlefront has given us a glimpse into an alternative future by including the Marder II in Team Yankee. Thanks to the Restless Kaiser, I have a sprue of this new vehicle to share with you. Join me for a look. This is the Marder II Zug box set for West Germans in Team Yankee. It's one of the new plastic vehicles in the latest release for West German forces. Marder is an IFV, so it can act as an infantry support, but it can also function as a reconnaissance platform. Designed to complement the new Leopard 2 tanks and replace the older Marder I IFVs, Marder II began development in 1984. The Bundeswehr planned to acquire 1,000 of the new IFVs. The new Marder shared the same general layout as the earlier IFV, with a front-mounted engine and transmission, a turret and a crew compartment in the rear. Crew was 3 men, a commander, gunner and driver. It could transport 7 soldiers in the rear troop compartment, with egress through 2 rear doors. The 2-man turret mounted a stabilised RH-503 gun. This gun could switch calibers between 35mm or 50mm by a barrel swap. The universal breech and dual feed mechanism could handle either caliber ammunition. Marder II's electronics suite included a thermal sight and a laser rangefinder. Armour protection utilised modular bolt-on passive composite armour panels. It was proof against 30mm rounds on the front arc and 14.5mm on the side. The Marder II design was tested in 1991 and results were generally favourable. However, political considerations like the end of the Cold War and German reunification alongside financial constraints led to the project's cancellation. Only the single prototype was ever built. If we look at the back of the box, we can see 2 images of completed kits and an exploded assembly diagram. While there are a few parts here, assembly looks like it will be easy and quick. There are a couple of options. These include the open or closed commander's hatch, an optional Milan launcher, and a choice of 35mm or 50mm main guns. The Marder II Zug box contains 5 IFV kits and 3 unit cards. Let's look at the plastic. The kit comes on a single sprue of dark green plastic. As is usual for Battlefront kits, the mouldings are crisp and there's enough well-defined detail to build a nice 15mm wargaming piece. And the kit engineering looks good. Let's start with the upper hull. There's good engine deck and hatch details here. The driver's hatch and the 4 passenger compartment hatches are all moulded closed. The hull engineering follows Battlefront's current design philosophy of having joins on visible upper edges. It does simplify the side hull and track design, but watch out during assembly to avoid gaps. The Marder II hull doesn't have some of the complex shapes and joins of the Warrior or BMP3 kits, so it should go together okay. Here on the sprue is also the turret smoke discharges, the commander's hatch, the turret peg, and the optional Milan launcher. The upper turret piece has a lot of detail. While the gunner's hatch is closed, the commander's hatch can be modelled open or closed. You can also see the commander's independent thermal sight, separate from the gunner's main weapon sight. This all looks very nice. The lower hull is fairly simple, but you can see the differential keying for the tracks, so you can't assemble these incorrectly. The side skirts are simple and have a raised strip on the back side to fit between the hull side and tracks. Given the track and hull pieces are moulded together, there's nothing stopping you assembling these before attaching the tracks to the hull, just in case you have some fit issues. The lower turret piece is fairly simple, not much detail required here. As I said before, the tracks are one-piece parts with the tracks, running gear and hull sides all moulded as a single piece. This simplifies manufacture and makes all this very durable. All great things for a wargaming piece. However, it does open up the possibility of gaps in the edge joints with the upper hull, but just make sure you take care during assembly and use some pressure to minimise gaps. The gun here is the Rheinmetall RH-503 gun in the 50mm configuration. The gun could change calibers to 35mm with a barrel swap. but unless you're going to magnetize these pieces, you'll need to decide which configuration you want to build. This set of tracks and hull have a large engine grille, but are otherwise very much like the other side. The road wheels are pretty simple, but there is some bolt detail there to create visual interest once these are painted and dry brushed. The rear hull piece shows the twin hatches to access the rear passenger compartment. Interesting, the design went for 2 hatches rather than a single ramp. Again, there's some nice hinge and handle detail here. The smaller gun here is the RH503 in the 35mm configuration. The barrel looks nice and straight. So those are the kit parts. It looks like it will quickly build up into a great kit. The quality of the detail, mouldings and engineering are all well up to the excellent quality we now routinely expect from Battlefront plastics. I remain dubious about the hull edge joins, but Battlefront have used this solution on a number of recent Team Yankee IFV kits without serious issue. Just use some care during assembly. I must admit I had issues getting the hull top to snap down onto the interlocking surfaces of the hull sides. From comments online, I wasn't the only one. In future, I would glue one of the sides to the lower hull, slot in the hull top, and then slide in the remaining side piece. Then the rear hull piece would square it all up. But once you get it all together, it looks great. So we've seen the plastic. How will the Marder II fare on the tabletop? You can use the vehicle as a troop transport or as a reconnaissance platform. Here's the unit card for the Marder II transport. It's a tank attachment with the Cobham Milan mount and thermal imaging special rules. It can also accommodate 2 infantry teams as passengers. Teams with Cobham armour have a side armour rating of 16 against heat weapons. Interestingly, page 9 of the FM101 FAQ indicates Cobham armour also increases the front armour values as well. The ruling is that the armour rating used is the better of the basic armour rating and that provided by the special armour. Milan mount means a Milan missile team carried as a passenger in the Marder II can fire their weapon using the Milan missile stat line on the vehicle's unit card. Thermal imaging allows the player to roll 2 dice on the night visibility table and take the higher result. In addition, the Marder doesn't suffer the +1 penalty for night or smoke. Courage, remount, assault and counterattack are all 4+, while morale and skill are 3+. These are motivated and well-trained troops, but they are a bit cautious. Marder II is hit on a 4+. Front armour is 6, side is 4 and top is 1. These are pretty good values for an IFV, better than the Warrior, BMP3 or Bradley. Protection is even better against heat weapons with the Cobham armour rule, better than some tanks. Tactical move is 14 inches or 35 centimetres thanks to the advanced stabiliser of the main gun. Road dash is up to 32 inches or 80 centimetres and cross is a 3+. The base weapon of the Marder II is the Rheinmetall RH503 35mm gun, which has a 28-inch or 70 centimetre maximum range. Rate of fire is 3 moving or halted with anti-tank 11 and a 4+ firepower. The advanced stabiliser rule gives the long tactical move, and the laser rangefinder removes any to-hit penalty when firing at targets over 16 inches or 40 centimetres away. The coaxial 7.62mm machine gun has standard stats, but isn't an AA weapon, so can't shoot at aircraft. The optional 50mm version of the RH503 cannon has a 36-inch or 90cm range, rate of fire 3 and AT-13 with a 4+ firepower. So this gives you some extra reach across the table and a bit more penetration, but still not enough to take on a T-55 frontally. Finally, we get to the optional Milan missile. Milan missile team passengers in the Marder can fire their weapon from the mount on the turret. However, while this is nice, the AT-21 of the Milan is outclassed a bit by some of the newer heavily armoured tanks in the game. Let's look at how players can field the Marder II IFV in Team Yankee. If we have a look on forces, there's a dedicated Marder II Panzer Grenadier Company. This is an infantry formation with Marder IIs as their transport option. The option in the Panzer Grenadiers are for infantry with either 2 or 3 Marder IIs. The 50mm upgrade costs just 1 point for all the Marder IIs in the platoon. But Marder II Panzer Grenadiers are also options for the Leopard 2A5 company as well as in formation support. The Marder II is a reconnaissance asset in the Marder II Spar Troop. So that's the plastic Marder II IFV for West Germans in Team Yankee. Despite some minor issues during hull assembly, the kit engineering is good and it's a great little kit. Although this is essentially a paper panzer, production probably would have gone ahead without the end of the Cold War and German reunification, so it does make sense in the alternative Team Yankee timeline. Marder 2 has high armour stats, which are great against lower level AT threats. Plus the Cobham armour gives it 16 front and side armour versus heat weapons. However, all this protection does mean Marder 2 is subject to the armour limit for any missions using deep reserves. This limits the on-table forces to only a single unit with front armour 4 or more at the start of the game. This includes any units in ambush. Any other armoured units above this limit must be placed in off-table reserve. This might leave your initial on-table forces a bit exposed, so maybe don't choose Defend in the mission matrix if you have a lot of high armour teams. Just something to keep in mind. I don't feel West German, so I can't tell you what they're like on the table, but they do give West German players an IFV to rival the new releases for the other nations in the game. I hope you've enjoyed this review. Thanks again go to the Restless Kaiser and Johnny B over at Modelling for Advantage. Check out their channel for Team Yankee unboxings and playthroughs. They make great content that I know you're going to love. Tell them Harry sent you. See you for the next one.